puppets, fun and mime. Welcome to the story time. Hello, Augustians. How are you? I'm back with another story. The story today is called The Happy Prince. It's written by Oscar Wilde. The Happy Prince is a simple play about a friendship between a small bird and a rich prince. Isn't it exciting? Let's get started. High above the city, on a tall column, stood the statue of the Happy Prince. He was glided all over with thin leaves of fine gold. For eyes, he had two bright sapphires, and a large red ruby glowed on his sword hilt. What luck! I have a golden bedroom tonight, said the swallow, settling below the prince's feet to sleep. Once, next day, the swallow wakes after a drop falls on him. Not a cloud in the sky, yet it's raining. How strange! After a while, another drop falls on her, and now she's annoyed. What is the use of a statue if it cannot keep the rain off a poor fox? Swallow looks up and is shocked to see the statue crying. I am the Happy Prince. Why are you crying then? You've made me completely wet. When I was alive and had a human heart, I did not know what tears were. I lived in a palace, and sorrow was not allowed to enter inside. Now that I am dead and have a lead heart, they have set me up here so high that I can see all the sadness in my city. And so I weep. Lead heart? So you are not completely made out of gold. Far away in a little street, there is a poor house. Inside the house is a poor woman whose son is very sick. He has fever and is asking for oranges, but his mother does not have any money to buy them. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, will you give her the ruby out of my sword hilt? I can't. My friends are waiting for me in Egypt, and I must fly there before it gets too cold. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, will you not stay with me for one night and be my messenger? The boy is so thirsty and the mother so sad. I don't think I like boys. Last summer, when I was staying on the river, there were two rude boys, the miller's sons, who were always throwing stones at me. They never hit me, of course. We swallows fly far too well for that. But it was mean of them to throw stones. Happy Prince looked at the swallow sadly. Please. It is very cold here, but I will stay with you for one night and be your messenger. Thank you, little swallow, thank you. So the swallow picked out the great ruby from the prince's sword and flew away with it in his beak over the roofs of the town. He placed the ruby next to the ailing child's bed and even fanned him with his wings. The sick child said, I feel so cold. I must be getting better. And then Swallow goes back to the Happy Prince statue. Tonight I go to Egypt. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, will you not stay with me one night longer? I am waited for in Egypt. Tomorrow my friends will fly further south to the jungles of Africa. They are waiting for me to join them. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, far away across the city, I see a young man leaning over a desk covered with papers. He is trying to finish a play for the theatre, but he is too cold to write any more. There is no fire in his room, and his hunger has made him faint. I will wait with you one night longer, because you really had a good heart. Shall I take him another ruby? Alas, I have no ruby now. My eyes are all that I have left. They are made of rare sapphires. Pluck out one of them and take it to him. I cannot do that. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, please do as I command you. So the swallow plucked out the princess' eye and flew away to the student's room. It was easy enough to get in, as there was a hole in the roof. Through this he darted and came into the room. The young man had his head buried in his hands, so he did not hear the flutter of the bird's wings. And when he looked up, he found the beautiful sapphire lying on the withered violets. Swallow then went to the happy prince statue. I'm finally going to Egypt. I came to bid you goodbye. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, will you not stay with me one night longer? It is winter, and the chill snow will soon be here. In Egypt, the sun is warm on the green palm trees. Dear prince, I must leave you, but I will never forget you. Next spring, I will bring you back 2 beautiful jewels in place of those who have given away. In the square below, there is a little match girl. She has let her matches fall in the gutter, and they're all spoiled. Her father will beat her if she does not bring home some money, and she is crying. I will stay with you one night longer, but I cannot pluck out your second eye. You would be quite blind then. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, please do as I command you. So the swallow plucked out the prince's other eye and darted down with it. He swooped past the match girl and slipped the jewel into the palm of her hand. The girl was elated. And then the swallow went back to the happy prince statue. You're blind now, so I will stay with you always. No, little swallow, you must go to Egypt. I will stay with you always. All the next day, the swallow sat on the princess's shoulder and told him stories of what he had seen in strange lands. He told him of the red ibises who stand in long rows on the banks of the Nile and catch goldfish in their beaks, of the Sphinx who is as old as the world itself and lives in the desert and knows everything, of the merchants who walk slowly by the side of their camels and carry amber beads in their hands. Dear little swallow, you tell me of marvelous things, said the prince, but more marvelous than anything is the suffering of men and of women. There is no mystery so great as misery. Fly over my city, little swallow, and tell me what you see there. So the swallow flew all over the great city and saw the rich making merry in their beautiful houses, while the beggars were sitting at the gates. He flew into dark lanes and saw the white faces of starving children looking out of the black streets. Under the archway of a bridge, 2 little boys were lying in one another's arms to try and keep themselves warm. The swallow saw a watchman chase them away, and they wandered out into the rain. The swallow then flew back and told the prince what he had seen. And the prince said, I am covered with fine gold. You must take it off, leaf by leaf, and give it to my poor. Leaf after leaf of the fine gold the swallow picked off, till the happy prince looked quite dull and grey. Leaf after leaf of the fine gold he brought to the poor, and the children's faces grew rosier, and they laughed and played games in the street. Then the snow came, and after the snow came the frost. The poor little swallow grew colder and colder, but he would not leave the prince. He loved him too well. One day, the swallow knew that he was going to die. He had just strength to fly up to the princess's shoulder once more. "Goodbye, dear prince. Will you let me kiss your hand?" "I am glad that you are going to Egypt at last, little swallow. You have stayed too long here." "It is not to Egypt that I am going. I am going to the house of death." And he kissed the happy prince on his hands and fell down dead at his feet. At that moment, a curious crack sounded inside the statue, as if something had broken. The fact is that the leaden heart had snapped right in two. It certainly was a dreadfully hard frost. Early the next morning, the mayor was walking in the square below in company with the town councillors. As they passed the column, he looked up at the statue.
"Dear me, look how shabby the happy prince looks," said the mayor. "The ruby has fallen out of his sword, his eyes are gone, and he is golden no longer than a beggar."
"How right you are, how shabby indeed, how right you are, how shabby indeed," said all the council members.
"And here is the dead bird at his feet. We must issue a law that birds are not to be allowed to die here."
So they pulled down the statue of the happy prince. As he was no longer beautiful, he was no longer useful. They melted the statue in a furnace, and the mayor held the meeting of the corporation to decide what was to be done with the metal. But when they melted the statue, they could not melt the broken lead heart in the furnace. So they threw it on a dust heap where the dead swallow was also lying. I have walked the city looking for its most precious objects. I have looked for it in its libraries. I have searched for it in its museums. I have unearthed its gold and jewels. But of all its knowledge, relics, and wealth, there is nothing that is more precious than this lead heart and this little bird. And this, Augustines, was the story of the happy prince. Bye-bye, Augustines.